All right, guys. So we're back with another episode of Every Calorie Counts. As I was just explaining to our guest here, we are down a member here. Marina's on vacation, so it's good for her, bad for us, and that you guys are going to get this shitty intro here. But we were lucky enough to get Justin Jacoby to come on today from Matt Jansen to have a talk with us just about his origin stories, maybe getting in a little bit more detail as far as the inner workings of Matt Jansen and kind of getting a behind the scenes look into that to some extent. But primarily about Justin, his journey through the scene here from a competitive bodybuilder, reaching that elusive pro card, and then, obviously being part of one of the bigger, more reputable teams within the bodybuilding industry at this point. So should be a pretty cool episode. Justin, is there anything you want to say to kind of introduce yourself?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I like to say this, I'm a coach first and an athlete second. So nice. As much as I still am a competitive 212 pro, I put my coaching first. And so that's just where it is, man. Like that's my ceiling. So, and I bleed Matt Jansen, man. Like I love it. Like even the merch that I make, that's like for my team, I put the Matt Jansen logo on it. I mean, it's just what it is, man. Like I've been with Matt since 2019. So this is where I belong and this is where I'm going to be.
Well, it's obviously it's a huge opportunity. It's an awesome opportunity to be able to get to that point and kind of learn from somebody of that level. And, we definitely want to get into that because that's something that I'm kind of interested in hearing. So, at the end of the day, I think starting with your kind of, like I said before, that origin story, I think would be helpful here and kind of getting to know Justin a little bit. So why don't we get into that base level shit? Like, what got you into bodybuilding, that entire process. And I kind of want to know, up that process leading up to meeting Matt, which seems like it was obviously a pretty integral part in your process here, in your whatever development, you know what I mean? Maybe even as a person to some extent here. So why don't we lead up to that point and then we can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My meeting Matt was very integral in the development of me as a person and not only as a bodybuilder and as a coach. So I played collegiate football. So I was like a football guy my entire life. I stopped playing other sports in high school to just focus on football. So I was the guy that played 3 sports. I was football, baseball, basketball my whole life. Right. And then I stopped playing baseball and basketball and I would play football and then I would train. So very early on, as a freshman in high school, I was in the weight room training. And we were blessed that in our area, we had a gentleman named Joe Hashie who opened a sports performance type of gym. We pushed sleds. We did strongman type of training. We did a lot of bench squat and deadlift. I mean, we got super strong. We were 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, benching 405, squatting 500 pounds, deadlifting 600 pounds. These were strong fucking kids.
What area was it?
I lived in upstate New York. So I'm a Binghamton suburb. Edwell, New York is technically where I'm from. Yeah, right. So I'm a Northeast guy. And so that was where I really started with the weight training. And then, high school football, I had a great experience, a couple state championships. And then I ended up playing collegiately for 2 years. And I got kind of burnt out on football. College football was not all that it was cracked up to be for me, my experience with it. So after my sophomore season, I talked to my parents, transferred schools, decided to stop playing football, actually transferred to a better school for academic purposes. And then that was when I started bodybuilding. So I needed a competitive outlet because, again, I was a weight room guy my entire life, even in college, playing football. I would go in and do extra workouts like bodybuilding style, go do arms or something like that. Everybody wanted, I wanted to be jacked. So, that was kind of really the start of it. And really going to a bodybuilding show to support a friend who did it was really my first experience with it. And I actually saw Nick Trigili at that show. And dude, he looked insane. That was the year he won USA's.
What year was that? 15? 14?
Yeah, 15. Or no, 2014.
So that was we're Nick Trigili. I grew up right here where Nick Trigili grew up. So he was one of the guys, the early guys. I saw him in Gaspari magazine ads for Super Pump and shit in 2012, 2013. So he was actually one of the guys that I saw originally too, that kind of propelled my interest along the way.
Yeah, crazy. I don't think he cares for me very much, but it's just that's the funnest story of it.
He cares for anybody very much, dude.
When did Cody Montgomery win that?
Cody Montgomery won USA's, I want to say, wasn't it the year after?
So 15 already?
Was 2015 the year Cody won?
That's crazy. It
I
must
don't know.
be
I
because
don't remember.
the same age as us.
Well, I remember I was paying attention to bodybuilding when Cody Montgomery won his pro card, and I wasn't really paying attention to bodybuilding when Nick Trigili won USA's.
Yeah, he looked phenomenal when he won that show.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, he almost won it the year prior.
Does he compete at all, Cody Montgomery? Like,
Cody? Oh,
yeah,
I think he has competed in the pros. I mean, he did the Arnold one year.
I wouldn't doubt him getting burnt out relatively early on, though. You know what I mean? That was a guy. Didn't he win the collegiates?
Like 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
I think he was just. I think he's just out of it.
I know he's got like 3 kids.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of kids, and when you do collegiate bodybuilding, like, I mean, I don't know if these guys are natty or not, but like, I don't know, for me, like, if I started banging gear in my teenage years, I would be burnt the fuck out by now.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
30 years old, man. That's a long time.
Yeah,
dude, I wasn't on. I mean, Tim knows because we talk all the time. I haven't been on gear for 3 years. I just started back 3 weeks ago because
I was wondering why I hadn't seen anything from you.
So, well, after I got married 2.5 years ago, I was on all the fertility shit because we wanted to have water. And now
priorities, man, priorities.
Yeah. So
did it take that long on the priority subs to get pregnant?
No. So I started them in October. I got like a sperm analysis, and my sperm was low. It was okay, they said, but it was definitely on the lower side. So my wife, she had a couple miscarriages, and then she had like a polyp in her uterus. She had to get surgery, and literally after that surgery, she was pregnant a week later with my daughter now. But after we always wanted our kids to be, we wanted 2 kids within 2 years apart. We would kind of get it so they're close and get it, done and over with. But I wasn't going to go start blasting stuff again after my daughter was born because I wanted to be like really present in the first year of her life, So she's pregnant. She's almost 5 months pregnant now again. So I just So John, Casalina, right? Johnny? Yeah. He's still coach. He's been my coach for 10 years. So he he was like, dude, it's just, what's the point, man? Like, you're gonna blast all this shit, you're gonna do a prep, we're gonna crash your system again. You're healthy right now. So I just started back on 3 weeks ago. So
well, good, man, and we'll get to see you get back up on the stage.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah, well, I know, probably, but still, it's been way too long.
Yeah, it's been a while.
4 years, 5 years?
3.
Okay, yeah. But by next year, it'll be 4.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Time goes. Got to get it in before the kids get
older. No, I mean, and have 2 kids, basically 2 kids by the time you're 30 is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
young,
Yeah, that was I couldn't I don't think my wife would be pregnant now if I selfishly just started blasting PEDs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But I didn't take anything with this kid. I was just literally on TRT. I was on
but your body's back working again now, so you didn't need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's the healthiest I felt the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So
what do you weigh?
Monday,
we're switching topics. We're talking about Steve now.
Yeah.
Steve.
Waiting for a transition to get it back on track. But go ahead.
Monday morning, I was 43. Then when I started back on everything,
43.
Yeah,
How old are you?
5'6".
On a good day. That's if we put him in his shoes.
I was 226 3 weeks ago when I started back, but
good God, man.
Yeah,
huge.
I don't know.
It's fucking huge. I've never hit 243. My average is 232.
But how tall are you?
We're like within an inch. I'm like 5'5".
Yeah, we're both short, dude.
Yeah, short. Really short. Super short.
The only place in the world where that's to your guys' benefit. You know what I mean?
Oh man, when I played football, like I used to say this all the time, man. If I was 5'8", I would have played Division I football. And I had coaches tell me that. They were like, "You're 5'6" white guy." You know what I mean? Like, just that's what's playing against you. I had coaches tell me that. I'm like, God damn. And so, but hey,
they're honest.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the honesty, but yeah, I mean, now I'm almost like, man, if I was 5'4", I'd be fucking whacked.
yeah, right. When you think about it too, from a sports perspective, now we're really floating into left field. But when you think about it from a sports perspective, it's true. Like honestly, like 5'8" would be like the bare. Like we're talking like fucking Nate Robinson is like 5'9" or some shit like that. You know what I mean? And he's considered a midget for all intents and purposes. You know what I mean? It's like seriously, when you think about it, like even golf, like there's really no sport where it's like you're not going to benefit from like the leverages or whatever you want to call it that you're going to get from being a little bit taller. You know what I mean? And obviously we all know genetics is such a big part of any sport that you're in. And it's like when you're 6 foot tall, you know, you hit at least some sense of a genetic lottery, relatively speaking. You know what I mean? Like just literally just being tall is a genetic gift that you get. You know what I mean? And it's like you're probably more prone to some genetic benefits within that height range. You know what I mean? Because we all know there's also a certain limit to that too. You know what I mean? Like what is it, above like 6'5" or something like that? You're more prone to the different injuries, which we've seen pretty consistently in like the NBA. You know what I mean? The taller they get, the more injury shit that they have. But before we go on a tangent about Yao Ming or some shit, let's get back to Justin's story here. So you were in high school doing all the training and everything, going through that football phase, and then it kind of turned into bodybuilding because we wanted to get jacked.
Yeah, and like I needed a competitive outlet when I stopped playing football. So that was purely why. It was either powerlifting or bodybuilding. I had a shoulder injury in college, so flat benching was very painful. And I always would just end up I'd feel good for a while and then I'd hurt myself again. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to powerlift then because like I'm not going to tear my pec in competition trying to do something stupid. So I just jumped right in, and 2015 was my first show. It was the Northeast Summer Classic, I think it was called. I don't know. It was in Syracuse, New York.
Oh yeah, I did that show too. Wow.
Yeah, so it was in Syracuse, New York, and I did that, and it was a great first experience. Everyone like expediters were really nice. Like I think that was a Bev show. So it was a NPC Northeast. So it was Stephen Bev's, their team. So their expediter team were running it. So I met Guy, rest in peace. He was, the head expediter and all those guys. And like, man, dude, they run a tight ship, man. Like that's a great crew. And so, that was my first experience. I won everything. So I won the novice overall. I won my weight class. And then I didn't win the overall of the show, but I was 162 pounds.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was your coach for that one?
Just a local guy. His name was Kevin Lisak.
Okay. I know who he is.
Competed. Oh, okay. Yeah. So just a local guy. I didn't know anything about online coaching, but he coached my buddy that competed this summer prior. And so I asked him to help me. And then after that, I worked with Tuttle for a while. Chris Tuttle.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got with Chris Tuttle pretty much after that show. And then I did another show in 2016. My early years of bodybuilding, I didn't really understand like taking a year off. Like I would do 6 month off seasons, 6 to 8 months. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm fat now. I want to diet. Like, I want to get shredded again. And so, but I always grew pretty decently in my early years. I did a show down in White Plains, New York, in 2016 as a middleweight again, but I was 172 pounds. And I was in just as good of condition. So I was like, that was a big jump. You know what I mean? That was, I did that I did that show in October of 2015, my first show. And then it was July of 2016 when I did the second show.
So did you go right into, sorry to cut you off, but for that first show, did you go right into more of an enhanced bodybuilding world or whatever? Okay.
Yeah.
So for the first show, you already enhanced. And then
I started using enhancements prior to bodybuilding.
Okay.
So I was using a little bit even before I started like my prep for that show. And then, I just never looked back. Right. I had no interest in doing natural bodybuilding. I saw what I wanted to see. Like Flex was one of the first bodybuilders I found on Instagram, and I was like, I want to look like that. Yeah, and I'm not dumb. I could look at that guy and say he's not natural. Like that's that's like, come on, guys, stop being silly. So I jumped right in, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like I didn't care. I had lifted for a long time naturally. I was already big. Like I played football collegiately with a 6-pack at 190. So like I was not a small guy as far as like being able to get big naturally. So I just didn't care. I wanted to be a freak. So I still want to. I'm trying to figure that out. So, but so 2016, I then competed in White Plains, New York in July. That was with Tuttle as my coach. I was like 172. Won middleweights there, and didn't get the overall or anything. Then I did North Americans that summer. So my third show was like my first national show experience, and I did North Americans. I got second as a lightweight. So
shit, okay.
I don't know why we pulled down to lightweights. We should have done welters, but it is what it is. I was shredded. That was probably the most shredded I've ever been as far as just like striated muscle. But I was like so over dieted. It was like unbelievable.
What year was that the White Plains show?
2016.
Okay, because me and Effort did that. I think it was 17.
Yeah, I know. That's what was the name of that show? Do you remember?
It was like the Summer East Coast Classic or something.
So yeah. Is it Northeast Summer Classic? Was that?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't remember. So then Greater New York Championships must have been the Syracuse.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's
okay.
Syracuse.
There it is. Okay.
They're all the same shows now, dude. They're like literally.
Are they gone now?
No, it's the same thing.
Oh, is it? They still around?
I think they're all the same. They still have them all. They have Easterns, the East Coast.
I know Eastern's still around. I don't know most of the Northeast shows. I don't have a ton of clients in that area.
When me and O'Donnell did Easterns, that was like a massive fucking show in 19. Yeah. It's like died. Every show has died, but bodybuilding has died down since.
Well, then, yeah, the Northeast has come down. I don't know what's going on.
Well, Eastern's has been like a ridiculous change. So like Eastern went from legitimately like probably one of the biggest amateur shows in the country, legitimately every year. You know, you're talking close to 1,000 competitors.
Justin did that show, O'Donnell, in 19, and Will Cabe won. Or the first call out, they had 5 of us, but there was like 22 heavyweights.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The first call out was nuts. It was Will, Cabe, me, O'Donnell, that guy Mark Andrade, and some other dude who's a pro now. He got 5th. I got 4th. O'Donnell got 3rd, and then I think Mark Andrade got 2nd, and then Will won.
Yeah,
that first call out was fucking nuts, bro. They had us pose like 6 times.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like Easterns, that's why I did Easterns in 2017. Was because it was the show to do before nationals.
If you won that show, you were getting your pro card.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I did it, because it was like if you were a class winner at that show, you usually would go on and be very competitive for a pro card.
Yeah, because Weinberger saw you, and then 7 days later he saw you again.
Yep.
It's not like that now, dude. Classic physique is like that there.
Well.
Yeah.
I think it was 22. We had a couple people in that show, and I think it was like less than 200 competitors total. Where, like I said, just a few years ago, it was like 900 plus. No, it was damn near 1,000. Yeah. But again, you had a lot of people flying in to do that show. Yes. Literally, it was the last show before nationals. But okay, so we hit all those shows, and then at what point though did you start to get to that level of, all right, let me get Jansen on the phone, and obviously that's where that relationship started to take off, right? Or was there another coach in between Tuttle and Jansen?
No, there's no other coach, but there's a different story. We never had, it wasn't a phone call. So I was getting ready to graduate college. I was going into my senior year, and it was actually I had become friends with Michaela Aycock. And female bodybuilder, professional. Yep. And so she was a good friend of mine. I actually went down to Tennessee over Christmas break to visit her, and she lived in Tennessee where Matt lived, to be a part of his crew that was there.
Yep.
So I met Matt. Actually, this was technically December of 2016. I met Matt that winter, and we had a couple conversations, not much. I never trained with him. I trained with Michaela Aycock and Matt York, her training partner, and Matt would be with his guys like Cade Zook and Turner Riddle and those guys like over on the other side of the gym and whatnot. I was obviously very starstruck, so I didn't really like talk much. But he remembered who I was, and he just he followed me on Instagram. I never really spoke to him though. It was like obviously it's like the way I used to do things when I was an amateur. I was like, if I didn't you didn't bother those guys. There was a rite of passage, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so I just kind of did my thing. And then I remember I moved. So I moved a bunch, you know what I mean? Like after, I moved to Connecticut. I eventually moved to Buffalo after graduation, then eventually moved to Connecticut, trained at Montanary Brothers Powerhouse Gym in Connecticut.
Nice.
Then got, my previous roommate was in Georgia selling cars. He was like, hey, we have an opening. Like, you'd be great at this. Come down. So I moved to Georgia. Okay. So, and that was in September of 2018. I'm in Georgia now. I did Easterns in 2017. Carlos Thomas beat the shit out of me as a middleweight that year. And then that's that. So then that was the first time I took a big chunk of a time off. So I didn't compete in 2018. So I'm down in Georgia, and I'm in a gym in Gainesville, Georgia, which is, Metro Atlanta. And I bump into Jansen. just literally like just boom, like, oh shit. And like just he was training at that gym. And I said, hey, what are you doing here? And he was like, I live here. He's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I live here too. And so I got a DM from him maybe a couple days later. He's like, hey man, here's my training split. I'm looking for a training partner. If you ever want to jump in, let me know. I was like, okay. So I just asked him if he would be okay to train at flexible times because of my work schedule. And he was, and we trained every day for a while. I started a prep for USAs then on like February of 2019. And so I did USAs with Matt as my training partner for that whole prep. And I mean, I came in pretty nasty for that show. The peak was off, but I still got third as a middleweight and the 2019 USAs. I won my first overall. I won the Mr. Georgia prior to that as my qualifier. But that was when I met Matt. Like that was when that was our relationship starting was. But
he hadn't coached you yet.
No, he was not coaching me.
So into USA's, who was Tuttle? Tuttle was still coaching into USA's?
Yeah, so Tuttle from 2016 all the way through then. We had a great run, and Chris is still one of my good friends. I had dinner with him at Nationals this past December because he lives in Dallas now. So that was kind of just and you know what? I will say this. Matt never once gave me his input. Awesome. He never overstepped. It was like, I'm your training partner. I'll take pictures of you. And like, that's it. And he always, hey buddy, you look great. You know what I mean? Like, just stuff like that. Very encouraging.
Says a lot about his character.
No, yes, it does. And God, dude, he's a character guy. Like, I mean, honestly, like he's a great fucking person. So that was really the beginning of our friendship really was then. But USA's came and went. I probably could have won that show with a little bit better peak and maybe just been pushed a little harder towards the end. It is what it is. Hindsight's always 20/20. But after that, I just was like, you know what? I think I'd like to have the guy that's like in my backyard that I train with every day, who's arguably the best coach in the industry, to help me. And Chris and I had an amicable split, and then I started working with Matt right away in 2019. August 2019 was pretty much when we started. And then from then it's just been straight through. So he's now the longest person I've ever worked with. So that's what we're coming up on 5 years this August.
It helps, man. It helps a ton. It helps.
Yeah. It's so not even like a normal coach athlete relationship. It's like, I tell him what I'm doing and then he, makes a couple changes and then it always works.
Well, I have, Nick's here too. Walker, he lives literally 8 minutes away from me.
So what is that? Are you like South Jersey?
Yeah, we're in South Jersey. So
okay.
You know where Atlantic City?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like 45 minutes from there.
Oh, okay.
So he's here with his parents prepping for New York. And I see him maybe once a week because my good buddy is who does his deep tissue work here.
Okay.
So I see him over there and he always says such good things about Matt.
Same things because he got with Matt right before 2019 USA's.
Yep.
And then, he went to Super Slice there for like a little period of time, but I don't really count that. And then so that's like 5 years in with Matt now too.
Yeah.
And coaching Nick Walker's got to be the easiest thing ever.
Yeah. He's so robotic, dude. He'll when I saw him last or a few Sundays ago, I was talking to him in there. And my buddy Umar got done working on him. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna go in the sauna?" Matt's Nick's like, "No, I gotta eat." Like Matt just texted me, updated my meals for the day, and I'm like, he just pulls out buckwheat and fucking chicken, and he's just sitting there just eating. It's like the exact same time every day. Yeah. He doesn't. If he doesn't start training, he said at like 1:30 in the afternoon, his whole day's like fucking thrown off.
Yeah, but hey,
at that level, it's like.
It's his job.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's his job. He literally gets paid to be one of the best in the world. It's so cool.
And you know what? There a lot of guys squander that. Like we all want that, and a lot of guys fucking piss it away. Yeah. That guy, he does not waste any opportunities.
No, me and him used to train together consistently, with Jeff Long down here and all that, and he just doesn't miss a fucking beat. He never has, dude. Even since when we met when we were 17, 18. He never misses a beat, dude.
No, he doesn't. And he's a good guy. He texts me all the time.
Nick's
very supportive of my coaching too. With Tony O at the Arnold, he was texting me, and then with J Rod for the Detroit and whatnot, he was texting me, and he's always rooting for me and my guys, and I obviously very much appreciate that.
He's very quiet too. People don't get it. He just stays to himself.
Yeah, the online persona it's a character, but him normally is just very relaxed.
He don't train with anybody down here, bro. It's only him.
I wonder why that is.
He just doesn't want to. I think.
It's a focus
He must
thing. You
be
know
at
what I
a
mean?
level
No,
now.
it's just like he either like
Yeah.
he
He doesn't need any, like, he's put on all the muscle he really needs. He doesn't need to chase the big weights anymore. So I think at this point, he's just like,
he's
I'm
one of the
better
most
off by
focused human
myself.
beings I've ever seen, like in person ever.
Yeah.
So far. And
Yeah. He truly has a switch.
yeah, dude, he's at the gym when nobody's there. The gym down here, it's got like all the new equipment and all that.
Is that Tillis?
No, it's called Performance Strength Academy, right?
PSA.
PSA, yeah.
Okay.
It just opened a few months ago, but yeah, he's just in there alone, dude. He goes in the afternoon. It's just him and the camera dude sometimes, and that's it.
Louis, his brother?
Louis films him sometimes, and then Grant, who films that kid Anthony.
Oh yeah, Grant. I love Grant. He's a great kid.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
yeah, dude, he just does his thing.
Yeah. Sorry. So where were we? 2019 or something like that?
Yeah, 2019, getting involved with Matt, and
Yep,
now
so-
Matt's the coach, and he's taking in.
Yeah. So we're off season doing all that stuff, still training together all the time. Nothing's changed. Obviously, like, my relationship with Matt then really grew because as training partners, we then became great friends. I kind of became part of the family. Like, I did Thanksgiving with them. I did Christmas with them. Because, like, again, my family's up in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working at the dealership. I don't get a ton of days off. And so all the holidays, I don't really have the ability to travel all that much. So I don't have any family. I'm kind of by myself. So Matt's like, well, come do it with my family. And it's honestly always been that way. I've done Thanksgiving with his family like 5 times.
How old were you at this point?
So I'm 30 now. So in 2019, I would have been, that's 5 years ago.
24, 25.
No, I was a little, no. So when I met Matt in 2019, that would have been what? Okay. Yeah, I guess 25.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. So then, yeah, it has to be right. 26 in 2020 or 2020. Yeah. I mean, because I just turned 30. Yep. So that's, I was about 25 when we really started training together in like 2019, or I would have been turned 25 April of 2019. And, so then, just from there on, it's just been like, we've been kind of a duo. And, and I always wanted to always wanted to work with him as a coach too, because I wanted to really get into coaching. And, at that time, he didn't have a coaching team. It wasn't like even on his radar. And then in 2020 was when he started it. So, we were training together all the way through, and we were going to do USAs in 2020 and like as a middleweight again, but like as a better, like more, like a real polished middleweight. And, then COVID happened, the shows all got moved. And I said, Matt, I'm not dieting for 30 weeks, like, because the shows are moving all over the place. Who knows if they're going to have them? Like, everything's up in the air. I was like, I'm not doing this. So we still did a mock prep that year, and it was crazy. Like, got super duper shredded with like so much ease, and then reverse dieted everything. And then I told him, I said, you know what? Why don't we just like take time off and try and be light heavyweight at the nationals? Like, that's the goal. And I didn't probably take that off season all that seriously. I got engaged, and then the relationship went sour. So like my training suffered, and kind of bodybuilding got put on the back burner a little bit. So we're into 2021 now. And I wanted to do nationals, and unfortunately, I separated from my fiance, and Matt moved to Florida in October of 2020 for the Revive and Raw, company, says that, was getting huge. And I just felt like I had a piece of me missing. Like, I was like, well, I just lost my best friend. I lost my training partner. Part of my family, like, it was a weird time in my life there. I was very uncertain on what I was going to do.
You went from having him and his family, you got engaged, and you went from having that to not having that to now kind of being back alone again.
Pretty much, yeah. Because like, even before I got separated from my fiance, it still felt pretty alone. You know what I mean? Like, we just drifted apart, and it just, again, no hard feelings. Obviously, we're very civil now, but it just it was a very weird turning point of my life of like figuring out what I wanted to do for a career, because I left the automotive industry, and it was I didn't know what I was going to do. And so we separate, and I had a great job at that time. I was actually working for a supplement manufacturer as a brand developer, and I was doing great. Like, I was setting company PRs. I'm a great salesman, and I left it. I left that job to move to Florida because Dom Icavone, Matt's business partner, he offered me a job with Raw and Revive, And I had about 30 clients at that time coaching. So let me actually back up. So I joined Camp Jansen as a coach in November of 2020.
Was this your first starting point, so to speak, as far as coaching is concerned?
I had been coaching people since 2017, but like, you know, local amateurs, maybe first-time competitors, lifestyle people, and that was where I started.
And how many clients at that time did you hold about?
I think I built up to about 25 people prior to COVID. So right up until COVID, I had about 25, and then I lost almost everybody.
Shit.
And so I remember
because of COVID or because of the personal situations going on?
No, it's because of COVID. Because of COVID, you know, like a bunch of people, you know, people weren't making any income, and then gyms were closed. For the majority of people out. And it was just like, well, what am I paying you for? And it's like, I get it. Like, trust me, I understand. So anyway, so when I joined Camp Jansen in November of 2020, I hadn't really recovered. I had 7 athletes. I had 7 people. And I told Matt that. He's like, how many do you have right now? I said 7. And he was like, okay. And he's like, if you just do what I tell you to do, he's like, it'll grow. And I just believed in him. And I just, I advertised the hell out of myself. I put good content out. I put a lot of hard training content out. And that was really what drove people towards me, because they saw me doing it in the gym, and people resonated with it.
And now this is you are under Camp Jansen as this is starting, right? Like this is you're now integrated into the
2020,
team, so
November of 2020. I am on the Camp Jansen site as a coach. Everybody signs up through Camp Jansen. Like, I am a Camp Jansen coach.
And now does this include him sending people your way, or is this like, hey, I'll put you on the team, but you got to get your own?
Both. Most of my business is generated from myself, but, you know, Matt has funneled people down to all of us at different times. But obviously you can understand, like, it's not this endless pipeline of people that he's sending. So it's not like he's put 50 people on our rosters. However, the name recognition and having him in your corner, because if I've ever gotten stuck with somebody, I always like, hey, well, you know, take a look, like what am I not seeing here? And that's very helpful. Plus, just being able to learn from him and talk to him and stuff like that, it's invaluable. And that's the stuff that, you know, people miss, you know, when they're as not being a part of the team. So that's how all of that started. So November of 2020 to December of 2021 there's a lot that happens. I moved to Florida August of 2021. So, you know, in 2021, my fiance and I separate. I get all my ducks in a row, and I take the job with Raw and Revive, and I leave my current position where I was. Up to that point, I had probably built my roster back up to about 25, 30 people. So when I moved to Florida, I had about 25, 30 people under me. So from November to August, so November 2020 to August, like, I had seen a good chunk of increase in my business. And that was all just from hard work, you know what I mean? Advertising, putting out good people, getting results, and obviously having Camp Jansen to help me.
What was the job that Don offered, if you don't mind us asking?
I was like, I basically just did what I was doing for the manufacturer, but for the brands. So I just flipped sides.
So you were formulating I
did some formulation. I did label design. I did a lot of compliance things, because I knew like what was legal and not legal with labels and stuff like that. So I did a lot of that stuff. I tried to do a little bit of R&D. I tried to do as much as I could. There were things that were way out of my scope that I tried. And they have way better people at their headquarters now to do those things, like Kuza. So, but it was an opportunity, and I did the best that I could. I did a lot of inventory management with John West as well. And John West is, you know, like basically running that business now. So a lot of different things. And I managed that with my, you know, 25, 30 athletes or so at the same time. And it was good. Life was good. So I'm down there in August of 2021. That's when I move in. I start prep for nationals. And I think I'm going to be a light heavyweight this whole time. And like that, no. I was 188 as a light heavyweight at my regional qualifier. And, you know, which I did a show like 4 weeks out from nationals, won my class, didn't win the overall. I was even considering not doing nationals. I was like, if I can't win an overall at a regional show, I was like, I don't have any business going for my pro card as a light heavyweight. I was like, what are we doing? And I was in great shape, but I wasn't like all the way peeled. So, Matt's pushing me down a little bit more. And, we hit like 182 on the scale. And I tell him, I go, there's no way I'm being a light heavyweight. I'm like, we're 16 pounds under cap. Like, there's no shot. And he goes, well, I think this is a good time to tell you. He's like, you're going to be a middleweight and you're going to win your pro card. And I was like, fuck. Like, I was so devastated by that because I'd been a middleweight like for 4 seasons. And I was just like, man, can I ever break through this?
Right.
And, I learned a lot because I just was too naive, I guess, to really what being fully shredded looks like and also how big those guys are.
Oh, you were peeled there, dude.
That's what I was gonna say. It's a learning thing though, because I think what people miss sometimes when you're looking at scale weight, we all know this, and people will say it over and over and over again. But when you're the athlete, you can't not admit that scale weight's in your head sometimes because we signify that as growth. We all look at that as that pinnacle of we have that idea of what it is in our mind, and it becomes that, especially when it's labeled as a weight class too. Like we want to be a light heavyweight, like light heavyweight, heavyweight, like those have a certain level of prestige attached to them when you're talking about that. And not only that, it's also one of those things where it's like if we recognize we're getting our pro card, that like how many middleweights make it to being a successful pro in any way, shape, or form? How many, you know what I mean? Even a light heavyweight to a certain extent. There's a lot of growth that has to happen. But all that being said, it's also one of those things where you start to recognize how much different a given weight can look. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where it's like, there's a big difference sometimes from weight to weight, year to year, show to show, and you can only really fathom that until it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, no, you're absolutely right. Because you can, every time you get to, like, a lot of guys will get to the same body weight in their off season multiple times in their career, and every time it looks different.
Yep.
Like right now. So for example, like I've hit 230 twice in my life. Last off season, I sniffed it for like a day, and then this year with relative ease, I hit 232, and then I pulled myself down a little bit. Like right now, we're doing like a mini diet just to kind of like regain some sensitivity. And every time I hit that number of 230, it'll be better. So it's not like for next season, because I'm going to do New York Pro in 2025. So I don't need to be 245 to come down for New York if I can just be a really good 230, 235. Like I don't need to like let myself get fat and soft just to chase that weight, because I have done that in the past. I've chased weight so much, and like that's why I think a great bodybuilder also can make a great coach if they want to, because they've been there, done that. It's like, hey guys, I've made all of these mistakes. Like, don't make the same mistakes as me. So we go to nationals. I make weight by the skin of my teeth, and that pull from 182 to 176 was rough because I was ready. Like at 182, I'm ready to go. And I think I looked actually better at that than I did on stage at nationals. But it is, you have to play the game. And so, so we go to nationals, and I mean, I agree with you, Steve. Like, I walked out there and it was over.
Oh, dude, yeah.
There was just a difference. And I'd watch the videos, and honestly, you see more detail on cell phone camera videos and pictures than you do on the Ultra HD like Gilco stuff. And I love Mitch, but like the detail, you just lose some of the detail. The skin texture. That's the biggest difference, man. Like you get somebody that's like truly 5% different.
At that show, dude, right? I remember, I think it was after prejudging when me and my buddy Umar, we walked to the front, right? And we were like, when they were clearing out and getting like, I guess, men's physique on or classic.
Yeah.
And I remember Matt was in the front, and he was, I think, wasn't Dom there too?
Yeah, Dom was sitting right next to him.
They were talking in the front, and when I was waiting in line to get into the bathroom, I was hearing him talk. I think Bumstead was there, and I remember Ian.
Yeah, they were all
talking, and I heard him saying that he didn't even pull you down water-wise that hard.
No.
Yeah, that's why I vividly remember him saying that, because I was like, you were fucking dry.
Well, if you got to go from 182, you said, to 176, right? Yeah, like at that point, it's like the job's done. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like weigh in, eat.
Yeah, I didn't pull, like we didn't do like, I didn't have to do like a crazy water cut.
I remember him saying it.
Didn't do the sauna or anything. Like Matt was like this. He said, if we dive down as opposed to just holding here, he's like, you'll be even more. He's like, you'll be.
Let me ask you this, Justin. When you say diet down and you got 6 pounds off, because I remember when I had to make weight for collegiates back in 118 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 202 and he had to get me to 198. The day before was fucking miserable. I was eating like tilapia and asparagus. Like what did that look like for you?
So I was like 2.5 weeks out when we hit the 182 mark or so. And it just got, he gave me a little bit more cardio. Gave me a little bit more. I don't need a lot to get in shape, like fat burners wise. We just got a little bit more aggressive. My carbs got pulled pretty low, which for me is like 100 grams of rice per meal. That was about as low as I got. And that did the job. Like I just kept dropping. Yeah. And it was just at that point it was easy because it was falling off me. So it was like half a pound a day. So we basically, from 10 days out until weigh-ins, I pretty much just kept continuously dropping. Yeah. The night before weigh-ins, I dropped quarter diazide or maybe an eighth or something like that. Matt's very, very conservative with diazide. So I used a little diuretics the night before. And then the morning of, I didn't eat a meal and I just sipped on a little bit of coffee, and then I went and weighed in and made it, and then started the process of eating back up. Yeah. And my water stayed low.
What time did you weigh in?
It was early. It was like a morning weigh-in. I think like we got down there an hour early, and they were like, "Yeah, come on." Like they were ready. That's cool. So I love when they do that, because some national shows, like if they're ready, they'll take you because they know. Like they know, like, hey, that last hour that you're just sitting there waiting to weigh in, dude, it's like torture.
Yeah. So well, if I have somebody that's that close, I tell them, like, dude, get there early. Like, be the person waiting. Be the person waiting.
That person waiting. Yeah. Like, if they open 30 minutes early, okay, boom, 30 extra minutes. You know what I mean? It's at that point, dude, timing is everything.
Oh yeah.
So I make weight, and we filled up, whatnot. I was only about 178 and change on stage at prejudging. And then some Chick-fil-A post prejudging and whatnot. And then I was nice and full.
You were full of the house too in the morning, dude. You were.
So, and at finals, I was really full, and my finals look I loved. And so, but I was. That
was a good overall too. I remember you.
I have Mike Condell here right now.
Oh yeah, because I know you're coaching him now. He's
here right now. He was in that overall too.
Yeah, him, you, Shire, and then
Carlos.
Thomas,
yeah, one of my welterweight client, Jordan Wise.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yep. It was a good overall.
Crazy.
I'm curious, what did the day look like after the weigh-ins? Like, obviously, at that point, you're looking to eat up, you're looking to get some water in the system, you're looking to fill out and like really complete the process of being stage ready. So, what did that really look like? Do you remember much?
Yeah, I mean, it was like probably 300 grams of rice or so per meal, and a lot of fat, all red meat. So like we load a lot, like mostly red meat. I don't know. I mean, I'm giving a secret away, but hey, beef before the stage makes you look crazy. Like,
yeah,
I mean, like
people for some reason people stay away from beef, and like I don't. I know they always it's slow digesting, blah blah blah. Like, first and foremost, like at that point, you're probably not having, if you have tons of issues with digesting anything at that point, there's probably a gut health issue going on.
Yeah, you're probably not in shape.
Yeah, or you're not in shape. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like, I never have an issue with digesting beef in any way, shape, or form. Like, that's one of those things that drives me nuts, where it's like, oh, the beef, like, dude, fuck you. Like, beef is one of those ones where it's like,
that's what Johnny fed me before Junior USA's 3 years ago. It was like, I think prejudging was at 9. I think literally at 8 a.m. he had me eat beef, fucking rice, and almond butter, just like drizzled up. And dude, that shit, like, it makes the fats make a huge difference.
Yeah, they do. And it's like, just like pulls everything in. You know what I mean? It's like it almost makes you drier.
Makes you more dehydrated too, I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah, saturated fats, man. That's where it's at. So, that's pretty much what it was. It was a lot. And we use macadamia oil. So like, it was a lot of oil. Oh my God. It was like, I love it. It's so good. It's like, I brought like 2 or 3 of those bottles, the Olivado ones. That's the one I use. Man, I went through like 2 bottles in like 2 days. It was like just so much oil. And I honestly, I could have been fuller at prejudging. Like, I was maybe a touch flat, you know what I mean? Like, but that's all right. Like, it was like, we were going for what we were going for.
Yeah.
And,
so let me ask, is that something that Jansen, I know we're kind of getting away from Justin here a little bit, but is that something that Jansen kind of imparted on you? I'll be honest with you. This is it's a little close to my heart. I've argued with somebody on this that's very reputable, very well known, and I'm not going to even, but like he's got the university very well.
Okay. I was going to say,
yeah,
come on, say his name. All right.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth on this on like live seminars and shit like that he's done, where it's like, well, the science says, that there's only so much intracellular fat storage or lipid storage you can have to be able to fill out. I'm like, dude, honestly, at a certain point, I don't care. I really don't care. At the end of the day,
works for the athlete.
Well, but you also
right. Throw the
you
science out the
you
window. Go based off what's sitting in front of you.
Yeah, you see it 24/7. And for me, it's always been that thing where it's like, and you guys kind of alluded to it a little bit, but for me, what I've always noticed is you get more, I'll call it uptake, right? For lack of any better verbiage, of carbohydrate when we're getting those higher fats in there. And then it always seems easier to hold the look when we have those higher fats in there. So at the end of the day, for me, it's like, I don't know if it generates more sensitivity because they are, fats that are ultimately going to play on that ability to be able to uptake glucose. I don't know what it is. I genuinely don't. But I've always been curious because, and that's something that we'll touch on a little bit further, I guess, after we get past your story and kind of getting into how much Jansen's kind of impacted you and your coaching specifically. But I was curious to know, because I think, if anything, I think Jansen should be more recognized, even though I understand he gets some recognition for it, in terms of his ability to bring people to stage ready. Like it's like he does not miss. And now what I've seen from you guys, between you, Cam, and Kuza, I feel like you guys don't miss at all, period. Like, and I saw your post on Justin. I get it. Sometimes it happens, especially with a guy like that that's probably very unique and interesting to coach for multiple different reasons. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that's been a huge thing for you, understanding the ability to be able to drive fats home closer to stage and kind of part of that whole concept of being stage ready.
Yeah, I mean, I never did that with anybody else besides Matt. Like, he was the first guy that did it with me as an athlete, and I saw how I looked, and I was really happy with it. Because I'm a really vascular person, but in other shows, my veins, I could never get them to come out the same way that they would look like in the gym. And like obviously, I know we're not going to recreate the same look, but backstage with all the shows I've done with Matt, I was vascular as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, so I was hard and dry, and like I still had plenty of sodium in me, and like for whatever reason, I could get a good pump backstage, which years prior before Matt, I could never really get pumped up. Really, I mean. So that was one of the hardest things. Like Texas Pro, for example, I got a crazy pump backstage. I had to like calm down almost. I was almost getting too pumped, and like so it was that's just how we do it, man. Like if you need a little sugar backstage, okay, cool. Just squirt a couple things of honey in your mouth and you're good to go.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much, but lots of salt, like sodium, like crazy.
That's another thing. People still go wild about that. Like salt backstage. What are you doing? You're going to hold so much water. Blah 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 blah.
If you're that dry, you're not holding water.
Yeah. It pulls water into the muscle.
I know. Exactly. Yeah. But so now you obviously had to cut down, and you were, I'm sure in your mind, it's playing a little bit of tricks in your head a little bit in terms of the weight, the middle weight, like you already said, and you really thought you were going to be the light heavyweight taking it home there. But now you get that card, right? Yeah. It's one of those ones now where is it at that time, I'm sure you're elated. Everything is positive. But then I remember, and not to bring up anything, but like I remember you catching some shit online, specifically from,
Boston Lloyd.
Yeah, there you go. Boston Lloyd. I was going to say Nick Trigilio again, but Boston Lloyd. Yeah.
Nick gave me, I know, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I knew what you were going to say. So yeah, I got a little bit, cause it was like, oh, I stole one, you know what I mean? It's like, I still had to get down to the weight class and still had to get on stage and pose. So it's like, it's all the same. It's a competition, man. So nobody ever
weight classes.
What the fuck difference does it make? It's a weight class. I mean, I made a weight class, I wasn't as muscular as I thought. Sorry.
I also think that's just, it comes down to good coaching. You know what I mean? Like we have a guy here, Nick Bono, Steve, he has a client take home his pro card at nationals too, I think, right? Like a year ago, or maybe it was, but Pfeiffer, the kid Pfeiffer that he coaches, he took an entire show, bodybuilding and classic, right? Won the overall in both. So he won his class overall in both those categories. Then he went into whatever national show he did. I forget where he got his actual card, but he brought him all the way down to men's physique and had him get his card at men's physique. And there was a couple of people talking. Well, and that's one thing. But all I would say is, like, to me, it's like, hey, if the goal is to get that status, to get that professional qualification, right? And then from there, you still have an entire lifetime to be able to, you still have an entire bodybuilding career, especially how young this particular client was, to be able to grow into whatever class you want to grow into, as long as you have that mindset and you have that, mental capability to be able to push yourself to that point. But it's like, to me, there's got to be some understanding there of, like, the coach making the decision that's going to help that person reach that particular goal, regardless of whether we're talking about manipulating weight classes or even divisions in some cases. I think there needs to be more credit going to the coach in those cases, opposed to it being something where it's like, oh, you tried so hard to do this and you had to settle for that. It's like, no, dude, I fucking won. I got the card that I was looking for. You know what I mean?
It's always the people who don't have it that are
right anymore. It's just ridiculous. Like, too many people are just like into everybody else's business. Just let people do their thing and just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
People need to stay in their lane a little bit. But yeah, like, it's like the loudest people in the room are usually the people who have accomplished the least. So it's just like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so Nick Trigili did a review of nationals that year, and he gave me a ton of credit. He's like, this guy's been on the circuit for a long time, you know what I mean? And like, at that point, I was only 27. So I went pro at 27. And which I had been on the circuit. I started competing at 21. So it's like, all right, it took me 6 years, so, and he gave me a lot of credit, and he said I look great, and I really appreciated his review. Then Boston, like, rips me a new asshole, and it's just like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, he used to be a huge fan of mine. He used to be super nice to me all the time when I worked with Tuttle, because he was friends with Tuttle. And then when I went to Jansen, because he doesn't like Matt,
I didn't.
So it's just like, all right, man, like, and you know what, man, fuck that guy. He got everything that was coming to him. So
well, like, sometimes it's like, some people are so fucking, like, heavily, it's like content is king, and they don't care who they're, what they're saying, what they're doing. It's just content that they're getting created. It's going to generate some buzz when they talk shit. But now my question would be, once you're there, right, does that play any role in your thought process of, now I'm coach Justin versus I'm competitor Justin? Like, where does that start to shift?
Yeah. I mean, I had already shifted it a little bit because I won my first pro card as a coach at nationals too. So I turned one of my athletes pro. He won welters. I won middles. It was actually really cool. That year, Camp Jansen won 4 of the 7 weight classes in bodybuilding.
Damn.
Who coached Carlos Thomas Jr.?
Cash.
I don't even know who that is.
Cash Guidry.
Yeah.
That was Sadiq's coach for a long time before AJ Sims or after.
I never heard of Sadiq. Yeah, but
Cash.
Cash has been around for a while. He's been around.
He's been around for a minute. I don't really know much about him. But yeah, that was Cash coached him that year, and then obviously then he switched to Andrew Vu like shortly after. I don't know. So, but so like when that for me it was like I won a pro card with an athlete, and then that next year, like so like get the pro card, and then like the business like exploded. So like before like by December 31st of 2021, I had over 50 athletes. Sure. So like November 2020. I start with Camp Jansen. I have 7. Mm-hmm. December of 2021. So basically 13 months later, I have over 50. I'm full time now coaching. I left Raw and Revive in November because I didn't need the income anymore. I just wanted to focus on the coaching, and it paid off, and it just multiplied every time. By April of 2022, I had 70. So it really picked up fast. And I had other coaches that I was friends with that were starting to funnel people to me as well. So I had Jansen obviously, but then Tuttle was, he's like, I can't take on anymore, and so he started sending some people my way, and I signed a bunch of them. So it's honestly, man, you got to network in this industry if you want to do well. And so, but that was, and then 2022 was a big year for me. I won 6 pro cards. Every person that attempted to get their pro card in 2022 with me eventually got it that season. Nice. So a couple needed like a second try, but everybody eventually got it. So 6 pro cards in 2022, and then the rest is history. Started signing more pros as opposed to just like more national level amateurs. Then 2023, obviously, another big year. 2022 is also when I got a big break. because I worked with Ariel Kadar and helped her win her first Arnold. And
that was 22?
Yeah, 2022
Okay.
Arnold. So her first Arnold win was 2022 Arnold. And from a physique standpoint, that was her best ever.
Right. And now, would you say from a status perspective, was this the biggest athlete you've ever had?
By far. You know, biggest following, biggest name, everything. She's extremely well known, and always had a really great physique. But just like we just nailed it, and that was the year she beat Missy in the physique round.
Right. Yeah.
You know, we always were never beating her in the physique round, but we beat her in the physique round. So we're in first place going into the routine round. So it's like, hey, if you win the routine round, you win the show. Like, that's the only thing your mind needs to be on. You win the routine round, you win the show. She lays down that Terminator routine, wins, fucking crushes it. That was awesome. So, you know, that was a huge break. Then I get more figure girls and more girls because they saw what I could do with Ariel. And then that was really the floodgates for women. And then I kind of got this little reputation of like really being good with the muscular girls, because all of those pro cards was either women's bodybuilding, women's physique, or figure that year. So that 2022, I won 6 pro cards with girls, didn't win any with guys. But I didn't have any guys that were at that level yet.
At that level, yeah.
So, you know, 2023 comes. Also, then 2022 Olympia, obviously I have Ariel. She gets 3rd, you know, her best placing to date, which was great. Then 2023, she wins the Arnold again. And I just start picking up more people, put a bunch of pros on stage. I also was able to show what I could do, not only like coaching, but while I was competing and dieting. You know, I go out to USA's 3 weeks out from Texas Pro with Justin O'Donnell, who's my training partner. He gets 2nd in heavyweights. Yeah. You know, where previously the year prior, when he did nationals with me in 2021, I was just his buddy. He wasn't my client. He got like 14th. So he goes from 14th to 2nd, you know, with one off season. And it was just a big year. Like everybody hit and everyone placed extremely well and everybody looked their best. You know, then Tonio obviously shows out extremely well at the Olympia. Julia Monroe wins her women's physique debut and goes to the Olympia. And, you know, it was just a big season, you know, so it just every year has just capitalized and gone up like this. You know, more business. Again, I've really streamlined how to treat online coaching like a full-time career. That's the problem. A lot of people do this and they treat it like a part-time job, but like you can manage a huge number of athletes when you like sit down at your computer and work 8 hours a day, just like you would if you're going to go into the office. You got to just hold yourself accountable. And it's no different. You know what I mean? It's no different than bodybuilding. You hold yourself accountable to your meal schedule and your training and sleep. Well, hold yourself accountable to your clients. And honestly, like I know where my ceiling is as an athlete. My goal for my competing is to one day make it to the Olympia. I don't care how. If they bring points back for the 212, I'll do every fucking show there is. I don't care. I just want to walk across the stage. I want to get the jacket. I just want to be able to say, yes, I was an Olympian at one point in my career. But I know that I'm going to get guys to the Olympia a hell of a lot more than I'm ever going to get to the Olympia. And I'm going to win people pro cards a hell of a lot more than I'm ever going to win pro shows. So I just realized that with my potential. And again, like I said, I'm 30 years old and, you know, the heaviest I've ever been on stage is 190 pounds. And I've been bodybuilding since I was 21. It's not going to happen overnight for me, you know? So like, I know where my limit is. And honestly, I love coaching. It fuels my competitive desire. And I love working with these guys. I love being around them and have them train with them in the gym, like that are bigger, better, stronger than me. Like, you know, yesterday training with Mike and Justin O'Donnell, they smoked me. Like I can't keep up with them in the weights that they lift, but who cares? You know what I mean? It's like, well, I can still give you I can keep up with them in as far as effort goes. And that's the thing. I think that's the biggest reason why guys are giving me opportunities. You know, J-Rod, Andrea Muzzy, Mohammed and Bobby, Mike Kendall, you know, and I have like a bunch of supers now that are working with me now, and like a good handful of really good classic pros. These are guys much bigger than me, but the training and the effort that I put out and that I put into the gym, and they see how I am at the shows. I'm in the front row, screaming my head off, doing anything I can to help my guys win. You know, that's what's catapulted my coaching. And you know, that's why I'm getting the opportunities. That's why I say I'm a coach first and an athlete second.
What's the difference between working with guys like Tonio, Justin, et cetera, versus working with a guy that is, you know, maybe still needs to get his overall wins at a regional level and still looking to crack that national level? And even if they have super potential, they're just not there yet and need their hand held a little bit more. What would be the biggest difference between those two level of competitor in your mind?
Obviously, I mean, there's other than the obvious things of like just talent and skill, you know what I mean? Like the higher level guys, they have they've developed a level of skill that these other guys have, and training is a skill. You know what I mean? Like you develop it over thousands of hours of doing it wrong, and then learning how to do it right. You know, just like, you know, lacrosse, stick skills, you know what I mean? Or, you know, playing golf, it's all skill-based sports, and training is no different. The ability to get a muscle to fire and contract, developing mind muscle connection. Yes, you're born with a certain level of talent, but you have to refine that skill. That's a big difference. Especially if you train with them. You know, like if I had those younger guys that have crazy high ceilings, but they're just not there yet, and they need years in the trenches, it's the skill level. They just haven't developed it yet. So training with them is actually like one of the best things that I enjoy doing when I can. You know, obviously they're all remote, so it's like a matter of days, but a lot of them come down, like Mike, a lot of them come down and, you know, they'll stay with me in my house, and, you know, we'll just do Camp Jacoby. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's camp, you know, my version of Camp Jansen. And which is what I've modeled everything after. You know, I've modeled my business and my coaching after what Matt does.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
It's a blueprint. There's no reason to stray from it. You have a recipe for success. It doesn't make sense to go away from it. So that's what we do.
Now, not to speak for them at all, but do you feel like that's a general theme among all three of you guys as far as Camp Jansen is concerned?
No. I think I'm the only one that's really doing it.
Really?
You know, I love Cameron. Cameron and Dom are great, but they're not in the trenches like I am. You know what I mean? Like, and I'd be the first to say it, you know.
Well, they will too, for all intents and purposes. Like Dom told it, he was on the podcast and told us flat out, like, I can't even go to a regular gym where he's at because he's got such a well-known, such a well-established following in his local area. He's like, dude, I train at a Lifetime Fitness. Like, I can't even walk into Powerhouse here, otherwise I get murdered. And Cam is, you know, Cam's like, you know, superstar Cam over there doing his thing, you know what I mean? Which is like, you know, he's busy as hell doing everything he does. But yeah, no, I'm curious.
They're flawless coaches and amazing at what they do. But like the blueprint that Matt laid out with what he did, I watched him do it. Because again, I came up at the time that Matt was doing all this. He competed on the national circuit. He was growing. He was getting better. You know, he got a third place finish as a heavyweight, and then, you know, eventually got the injury, which is why he stopped bodybuilding. Right. But he was training with his athletes all the way up until
Matt got hurt.
Matt tore his pec. Yeah. That's really what drove him out of
times, right? He was recovering from it, and then tore it again, right?
No, it was just the incision kept ripping open. He couldn't get it to heal.
Okay.
So it was just forever that, you know, he's unable to really train. So I was like, well, I want to do that. You know what I mean? Like I want to be a pro, and I want to be a pro with my guys. I want to then coach higher level pros, but like train alongside them, you know, like that's what I wanted to do. And like my aspiration is, this is a very big goal of mine, is I want to be on the Olympia stage with my athletes. I want to be able to say, like, I was a coach that coached Olympians while I was competing as an Olympian. Like that's the coolest thing I could ever ask for. And that's my goal. And I'm going to figure it out. I'll figure out a way to make it happen. I won't stop until I do. But that I'm the only one really on our team that's like truly doing what Matt did. You know what I mean? And like those guys are doing it their way, which is just being exceptional coaches. You know, Cameron still trains, you know, and Dom still trains, but it's not the same, you know, because they're not in the circuit anymore. They're not competing anymore. Like their competitive career's done. And, you know, Dom's adopted more of this running and endurance style of training like Matt has, which is great. I love what Matt's doing and because he's found this new path to be competitive. But I'm still sticking with that blueprint of, you know, I'm in the trenches, and I talk about that a lot. And a lot of people are going to get sick and tired of hearing it. But like, you know, I mean, like until I'm out of the trenches, I'm going to let everyone know, like, I'm still in it, still doing everything that I need to do as a bodybuilder, along with being able to manage, you know, a lot of really good athletes. So
go ahead. I'm sorry. The one thing I find interesting is that as we're talking about coaching here, the one thing that you keep bringing up is the training over and over and over again. And I haven't heard you say one thing necessarily specific about food that I can remember, or fucking supplements or anything of that nature. It's really like your big thing right now is training. You want to touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the number one and most important thing. You know, it's the catalyst. You know, because you can have a flawless diet, and you can take whatever, you can have a flawless cycle, And but if you train like a pussy, then like guess what, dude? You're not giving yourself a stimulus for an adaptive response. It just doesn't happen. You have to train. I don't know a lot of guys outside of like true genetic freaks that can go in the gym and kind of twinkle toe around and grow muscle. Like Tonio is my most gifted genetic athlete, and he trains hard. He didn't always train this way. He's developed this skill, but with working with me and Johan Schlatz from Brazil, man, he learned the hard way. And you know what? That's why he's like significantly bigger and bubblier than he was just at the Olympia in November. We had that 6 months between the Arnold South America and the Olympia. He was 8 pounds heavier and in the same condition. It's like, who can do that?
Right.
No one.
Right.
But when you got the genetics and he trained his ass off, well, yeah, it works. So that's the biggest thing for me is and that's something that I really hammer into my people. You got to train insane. You know what I mean? Like you gotta, if you train insane or remain the same, like there's no way around it, and the food, of course, like I feed the hell out of people. And that's one thing that I get most of my people like Mike over here. When I give them high days, they're miserable.
Yeah.
It's just force feeding. But you know what? You get them and you get their metabolism into a spot where it's like, dude, you've like hacked it. They're dieting on a ton of calories, and it's just they stay full because they're eating, and they just look crazy.
Yeah. It's one of those things that we talk about it constantly with the amount of food that some of these guys have to eat. It's just the reality of the matter. Like, that's when you think about it. What did any of us grow up on? You know what I mean? Years and years and years ago, when you're watching, Jay Cutler or Ronnie or whoever, like it's all about, they're putting down the food and they're fucking training like maniacs, and that's just what life is. You know what I mean? And I think that's what attracted most people to bodybuilding in those early years, because there wasn't, the Instagram or whatever it is that might attract people there nowadays. It was that concept. You know what I mean? But I wonder, how do you feel? Obviously, you had a background there already as far as training is concerned, because you said that's kind of where you got brought up, was the hard training that you were doing in terms of high school, in terms of the sports and things of that nature. But do you think that was in large part, do you credit Matt a lot for your concepts there and your thought process there and your kind of foundation there as far as training is concerned? Because I remember, Matt, the one thing that really like attracted me there was like when they were training in the Arsenal facility. Yeah, that was what you were just talking about, where Camp Jansen kind of started. Dallas was there, and then later it was Nathan. But I remember watching him grow his physique, Matt, for that run that you were just talking about, where it was like, I remember the back being his big thing. He needed to bring up his back, and it was just like row after row after row that he was doing. I remember that whole thing vividly. And like I said, it just seemed like it was that, where it was just the fucking training and the food, and it was just that like that foundation. I mean, that's the only thing I can call it.
Yeah, that's where like the whole mantra of do the hard stuff came from.
Yeah, right.
So like, none of the frills. You know what I mean? It's like, well, we're gonna do the we're gonna grow, and that's where Matt, Matt, all of Matt's principles he's done with himself too. So he's not asking anybody to do anything that he didn't do himself. And that's what I love about him. And I'm the same way. Like, I've never asked an athlete to do something that I haven't already done myself and done successfully. So like I am my own guinea pig. Before I ever try something with an athlete, I do it first, whether it's training, PEDs, dieting, the way I refeed or anything like that. It's like, I've done it first. And that's what matters, in my opinion. You have to have some hands-on firsthand experience with it, with yourself, in my opinion, to really understand what it's going to do for an athlete. But the hard training is truthfully where all the drivers of progress really occur. I did know how to train before Matt, though. I found Dante Trudell's DC style of training early, and I eventually actually hired, when I was working with Tuttle, I hired Dusty Hanshaw to write my training, because I loved following Dusty, and I thought he doesn't have a pretty physique, but he's put on a lot of fucking muscle. And so, I wanted to develop a crazy physique, and I grew a lot when I did to train DC style. I trained 4 days a week for like 2 years. Some weeks it was 3. I just did the upper lower split Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes on a Saturday or Sunday I'd throw in some accessory work, but that was it. And actually, I grew a ton of muscle that way, and I got shredded for a show. I prepped like that one year, and it worked. It worked for me. And Matt is a very big believer in those same style of principles. Hey, don't go crazy with volume, but no reps in reserve when it comes to all of your working sets. Like everything's taken to failure, and and that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like I don't know a lot of guys that can do like RPE 5 and 3 RIR, and it's like, because I don't actually believe in that stuff, to be perfectly honest. Because if you try and train at like a 3 or 4 RIR, it's like, well, how do you know?
Right, and not only that,
how do you know that you only? Oh, okay, I only have 3 left. How the fuck do you know that?
Even if you did know, why would you? I couldn't comprehend the concept of somebody literally thinking during a set, how many more do I have left? How the fuck do you do that when you're literally in the middle of lifting weight? Yeah, exactly. That's just
I can't count when I'm training. I'm just going.
Yeah. And that's what I remember. I'm old enough to where I was actually on the boards. Like my original introduction to Matt back in the day was when he had a team called Innovate. He was part of it. Was like him.
That was like the first. That was that was so long ago.
I think he was younger. I think he was. I don't know how old he was.
It was a coaching team. It was him and some other people.
Yeah, for sure. Him and Austin. Those were my original introductions to him and Austin Stout. I actually ended up working with Austin for a long time. But at the end of the day, that was, and so I was on the boards when Dante was like, Harold is like the fucking god when it came to training, and DC training was like essentially all there was back then. I shouldn't say that. It wasn't all there was, but like if you were in the bodybuilding forums, you were actually like really paying attention to things. Like it was the dog crap training that really was.
If you trained to failure, you did it that way.
Yeah, 100% with the widow makers and the fucking loaded stretches and the whole 9 yards.
Sets, man.
Yep, rest pause. Yep. Later on, all those things kind of got manipulated and changed. But like when you really go back and you look at it, a lot of those principles are now like the foundation of other people's plans. They're just calling it different shit, like cluster sets or whatever.
Yeah, just reinventing. Yeah, just
exactly.
But it's all the same. So they're just intensity amplifiers to take you to a little bit beyond failure.
Yep. Well, listen, we've had you for a long time. I know Steve's got to get going here. And honestly, dude, I felt like I had a lot more to talk about, but I honestly, it was a great conversation. It went back and forth. As we kind of got into this side of things, maybe we can have you back on in the near future to talk a little bit more about the business in terms of where you're at now.
Yeah.
I want to hear the business
side of it. I'd love to come back and because I know like that, the story is long, you know what I mean? And if people are interested in it, I'd love to be able to kind of pick up where we are here and talk about pretty much everything all the way to the current, and then what's to come in the future. I think that could be a good topic of conversation too.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to get you back on. I also talked to Dom about it, but maybe having, and I could always message Cam about it, but maybe even having the 3 of you guys on to talk a little bit more X's and O's specifically about coaching and see how you guys kind of differ. Because again, I think, looking at you guys as a team, it's like there's not many teams out there that hold the same level of, quality from coach to coach to coach. Like between the 3 of you guys, it's just crazy. You guys obviously have the luxury of having Matt there, and Matt's like the pinnacle of it. You know what I mean? So to have the 3 of you coach, each one of you could have your own teams outside of that with no issues whatsoever. And we did at one point. I'm the only one who never did a full coaching team on my own, but Dom did and Cam did, and now we've opened that up. Now I have an assistant coach, and Dom has brought Mike Nassif on. I brought Jessica Falborn on, and Cameron brought Jarrett Crew on, and we're expanding Camp Jansen now. And unfortunately, for all of those out there that want to be on Camp Jansen, guys, it's not gonna happen. You're only either gonna get picked by Matt or you're gonna get picked by one of us. Like there's no applications, you know what I mean? So we knew who we were bringing on 2 years ago. It was just the grooming process took 2 years to a year and a half of mentorship work and trust. So that's what Steve and I talk about that all the time. There's got to be that level of trust if you're taking on that, like you're not just going to pick somebody out of nowhere and be like, oh yeah, great, let's work together, dude. I don't even know who the fuck you are. Yeah, not going to happen. Yeah. So
it's not about money. That's the thing. If you made none of us give a shit about the money that the assistant coach is bringing into the team, because it doesn't matter. It's reputation.
Yeah.
So, because
reputation.
Camp Jansen's the premier coaching team in the industry. There's nobody that beats us.
Yeah.
If you really line it up, hey, I mean, hey, I'm gonna say arrogant statement, but you know what I mean. The proof's in the pudding. You know what I mean.
No, and I mean, obviously, it's one thing to sit here and say that we're blowing smoke up your ass, but at the end of the day, like you said, I mean, it's really like the writing's on the wall. Again, name the other team that has that level of consistency from coach to coach to coach, or that level of even quality of competitor from coach to coach to coach. It doesn't happen.
There's not all of us underneath Matt. So like the three coaches underneath Matt all have put people on the Olympia stage.
Right. And say
On
that's
top
crazy.
of Matt obviously winning 2 Olympias and then having, I mean, I don't even know, 30 some plus Olympians at this point. Like,
probably a good moment, Nick, too.
yeah, I think so too. And like,
Sure.
so it's like, well, you know, like there's nobody that can say that. And that's something that I think that I take extremely seriously is, you know, we're a competition team. You know what I mean? It's like, this isn't like a, you know, just like, there's a lot of coaching teams that like are very, very driven to make a really good living for their athlete, for their coaches and stuff like that. And I get that. Trust me, we want to make a good living too, but like, we want to win. Like we want to work with champions. Like that is like, it's a winning culture here. You know what I mean? Culture is everything and winning is a habit. So if you get in the habit of winning, it becomes a culture and it trickles down to the rest of your team because they see what it's like with that athlete and their coach at that show, winning a pro card or winning a pro show. And they're like, I want that. And it's like, okay, well, like I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get to that point. And you know what? For a lot of them, that's all it takes. And then a lot of our guys and girls are very internally motivated because of what they see.
Yeah. Right.
They see they see what it's like, but anyway, I'll leave you guys with that. I think that that's a pretty good way for us to sign off. You know, it's like, that's how we do things. Hey, Camp Jansen, it's a winning culture.
Yeah.
That's what the episode's going to be right there.
Yeah, I'll be in New York.
The winning culture.
Right, I'll be there at the nighttime too, so I'll see you there.
Okay, cool, man. I'll be there for both days because I have 4 people in it, so I have people on both days.
Awesome.
Where can everybody find you, Justin?
So my Instagram is J_Jacoby32. All my links are there. My coaching link is there. So I am taking on more people, but selectively. And so, but my Instagram and my YouTube are all there. And, you know, I still film content on the YouTube, just training stuff and talking about training with the athletes. And that's, again, you'll hear me say it until the day you die, man. Training is the number one. So
there you go. All right. Well, it was awesome to have you. So there you have it, guys. This episode with Justin Jacoby, and hopefully we have him back for more. But this is us signing off on the Every Calorie Counts podcast.